Okay, now one thing, guys, if you look here, if you look up at my example, you can, I don't know if you can really see that, you can have your texture go off your circle a little bit. So like right now I have my texture kind of going outside of my circle, okay, to kind of give the illusion that my texture is above my circle. So like if you wanted to kind of do that, so in the example, the one example that's on your, that I showed you, the mounds kind of go outside the circle. So that's just another thing that you can do to kind of make your circle look like it has more of a texture, is by trying to go outside the circle a little bit. Just like in my practice paper, I'm going to start, I like to start with my darker color, and then I kind of work my pressure lighter. You can go the other way if you want, but I'm going to start with my violet colored pencil. And I know that if my light source is up here, if you guys want to look at the projector, this is my light source is up here, then I know that down here, my sphere is going to be darker. So I'm going to start by laying in my value in between my pieces. Remember, like in my texture, okay, remember my broken earth texture here? See how dark my creases are? I'm going to start putting those shadow things in first. Okay, so I'm going to start working around these shapes lightly. You see that I'm not digging into the paper. I'm just slowly kind of putting in some purple, because I know that down here is going to be the darkest. Okay, but do you see how carefully and slowly I'm doing this? This should take you a while to build this value. Okay, but I'm starting lightly, and I'm starting with my darker color on the bottom here, because I know that this is furthest away from my light source, and I know that it's going to be dark on this side of the sphere. It's furthest away from the light. Okay, I'm going to deal with my texture after that, but right now I'm focusing on the actual sphere of my, that I'm working, that sphere, the in-between parts. Okay, so I'm working these shadows, and then as I start building up, I'm going to start to lighten my value. I'm going to start to lighten my pressure, so that down here it's going to be darker, but then my pressure is going to get lighter as I start getting to the top, to show that it's getting more toward the light, like when we did our shaded sphere. Okay, so as I go up to the top, I'm going to start to lighten my pressure with my purple to show that I'm getting closer to the light source. Okay, is that making sense? Can you see that down here is darker and up here is starting to get lighter? Okay, so work with your texture, and also try and focus on the fact that you guys are doing your textures. This is a spherical object. It's not flat. It's a sphere. So things are going to be wrapping around it. So your edges might be a little curved. Okay, think about also having, like I said yesterday, having your texture kind of peek out over your sphere. Okay, like what I have here. Okay, can you see that the edge of my sphere is not straight? It's not perfect. This texture is kind of going around the outside, giving it a little bit of a bumpy texture to make it look more realistic. Okay, so you should get your texture drawn in. If it's not finished by now, get it in there, and you should start by laying in your textures, your color. Okay, So like I said, I'm starting with the actual sphere part of mine, which is the in-between my textures of my broken pieces of earth. Okay? And again, you're working lightly. This is a building process. It's not going to get done in one shot. You have to build your colors. So this purple that I'm laying in is just my first round of color. And then as I go with my next color, I'm going to start to build. But as you're laying your stuff in, think about how your blending techniques. Pressure, layering. So right now I'm focusing more on just pressure. That my purple, as I get up closer to the top where the light source is, I'm just changing my pressure to make it look lighter. Okay. And again, try not to have a texture that you're making up in your head. Try to be looking at something to help you, because then you're not guessing what it's going to look like. You have an idea because you have a reference to work from. So guys, if you look up at the projector, can you kind of see I'm slowly building my texture a little at a time? So I kind of laid in my color in the background. I overlapped it. I had some purple back there. I overlapped it with a little bit of black colored pencil to make some areas dark. I'm not going crazy with black colored pencil because once you put the black on there, you can't get rid of it. So I'm slowly laying it down, but I still want it to be mostly purple down there. And now I'm starting to build my shapes. Can you see that I'm building each shape individually? I'm not just going through and just coloring like crazy on my whole paper. I'm doing each shape as its own shape. So I'm going in with each shape, laying in my colored pencil. Okay, going back with my violet, kind of trying to help shape the outside of it to make it a little bit more distinct. Not outlining it, I'm just kind of laying in a little bit of purple around the outside to kind of help define my shape a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going in, I'm going to add some of my cracks. Okay, and then I can go in with my darker blue. Okay, but you see that I'm building each of these objects, these shapes up by themselves. Okay, we will continue this tomorrow.